Hey guys, you got Rio Stonewell here, and before I start on part 2 of Bond Teams of Destrana, Book 1, The Feral Within, there are a few things I want to mention here. Now first off, and probably most importantly, I do claim ownership over Book 1 and Book 2, which I am still currently working on, except for some key parts of it. There's mentions and references to TV shows, movies, games, songs, that sort of stuff. And those I do not claim any ownership over at all, because I did not originally come up with those. But the reason they're in the book at all to begin with is because I find it easiest to explain something to somebody who is trying to understand something that I'm talking about when I refer to something from a movie, a game, or a TV show, or songs from such instances. Because it just helps me explain things. And the main character from my books is the same way. Well, the main character being Blaze, aka Rio Stonewell. In the second book, there's also another main character that the book switches back and forth from. But we'll get to that when I get to the second book. Anyway, my point is, the main character of Book 1 is basically me with some few extra stuff that he can do that I wish I could do. So anyway, I hope you guys understand that I claim no ownership over of rights over instances of movies, games, TV shows, anything like that. But they have been very helpful to me because they have given me a lot of really good inspiration for my books. Also, if there's anything that you don't understand about the books, please feel free to ask questions in the comments below. And also, if you like, you can ask questions about movies, games, and TV shows as well in the comments below, because this channel is also for fan discussions of movies, games, and TV shows, and songs from such instances, because I wanted to make a channel where people didn't have to feel like they had to hide their passion for such things. Anyway, on with the book, Part 2 of Bond Teams of Destrana, Book 1, The Feral Within. Hopefully that doesn't happen anymore. For a time, I was too stunned to speak. Van? I finally managed to choke out. I thought you died back on Earth. See, the shimmering mass of air had formed an organoid, a sort of intelligent, robotic dinosaur about the height of an average adult from a show called Zoids. It kind of looks like a mini T-Rex. Actually, Van, the main character of the show, was Gwen's nickname on Earth, because I've never known him to miss an episode of Zoids if he could possibly help it. His real name was Craig. Yeah, said Van, that used to be my name. But in a way, I was dead. Van died when I came to Destrana. A few days after Elamorph and I bonded, I became Squen. I used to call Elamorph Shadow, but we both had to change our names because he didn't seem able to finish, so Zeke took over. See, if you still exist at Destrana as the person you used to be known as by the end of 3 days after bonding, your bonder goes back to bond form till it chooses a new partner. What's bond form? I asked. Bond form, said Zeke, is when a bonder is in the form of a small object that its partner valued above all else back in their previous life before they were called to Destrana. Like your storm egg, Rio. Wait a minute, I said, suddenly remembering something. Squen, you said you heard our thoughts. How? Well, Elamorph's powers are a bit like yours, Zeke. But instead of reading my mind, his presence allows me to read the minds of anyone and anything within normal earshot, as long as it's a sentient creature. Well, I said, as I dumped the scraps down one of my sea hatches scattered around my home, it'll probably only take me till the night to think up new names for me and Zeke. What? Said Elmorph in a voice that sounded kind of like the noise you hear in a big beach shell. A conch, maybe. You mean you're not upset about appearing dead to Destrana? Are you kidding? I said with a chuckle. I've been wanting to blow this village ever since I turned 15. I really envy you, Rio, said Gwen. It broke my heart to die in the eyes of Destrana, even if it was to keep her inhabitants safe. Well, said Zeke, Rio's an orphan, and he's always been a roughneck at heart. He keeps to himself, mostly. I mean, look at his home. Here, he indicated my cliff-face home. And besides, instead of buying food and supplies, he makes and collects everything he needs on his own. Anyway, I said, bringing the attention back to the topic at hand, even if I could publicly fake my death, which is a huge stretch in itself, how the hell can I keep from being recognized? After successfully faking your death, and once you and Zeke go through the renaming ritual, your physical features and your clothing is altered based on your dream features and clothing back on Earth, said Gwen. And, said Zeke, turning back into his fireball form, Elmorph and I can manipulate a patch of heat and air to make it look like you fell over the cliff on your roof. Actually, said Gwen, I already have a ready-made death excuse for you, Rio. I've invited a new friend of mine over to my place near Sheercliff. Now, here's what we're going to do. So, that's why, next morning, I was sitting next to some guy called Jice, our legs dangling over the edge of the cliff. Squen had already introduced us. When the intros were done, Squen went inside his house to do the dishes. Jice and I sat there in an uncomfortable silence for what seemed like forever until Squen finally called from the house. Hey, Jice, come help me move something, will ya? Sure, Jice called back. Be right back, he said to me as he got up and headed towards the house. I think he was actually glad he didn't have to keep floundering around for something decent to say. Just as we planned, Squen made sure Jice couldn't miss seeing me from the window as I got up, stretched, and turned, as if to head towards Squen's house. This was the most crucial part, since a witness would help add to the belief of my death. As I turned, however, Elmorph, who had morphed into the elements necessary to create a very realistic flock of birds, rushed at me, using his air powers to knock me over the cliff. I wasn't expecting the wind. The only part of the plan Squen explained to me was the falling part. Now I understood why. If I knew about the gust of wind, I probably would have fought against it reflexively. Then, even an idiot would have known it was all an act. Anyway, over the cliff I went, but instead of hitting the water, Zeke, who was waiting for me and had morphed a cam bubble, caught me inside him, and we stayed in that spot, or some spans below where Morferno had caught me, so I wouldn't get hurt from a sudden stop, for about an hour, as we all agreed. See, it works like this. As long as Zeke was in cam bubble form, anything or anyone hidden inside is completely invisible, even to mind readers and matter sensors. While the cam bubble is moving around, it's still invisible to mind reading and matter sensing, but it might be seen with the naked eye. You'd need a pretty sharp eye, though. When the hour was up, Zeke, as the cam bubble, with me inside, went to the top of the cliff to collect Squen and Elmorph. Then we went to a little-known part of the Scrana marshes. Actually, Squen and I are the only ones who know about it, but Zeke, after reading my mind, found it easily enough. After Zeke had set us down by a river, he morphed back to his true form. Okay, I said, how do I do the renaming ritual? You have to say the words of the ritual, said Squen. That's how you get the magic going. I can sense your eagerness to start, Rio, so since thought is faster than vocal explanation, how about I thought trade the words of the ritual to you? Sounds good to me, I said. Let's do it to it. So, after Zeke thought shared the words to me, I repeated them. I, Rio, am no more. Now that I have bonded with my partner, Zeke, I am reborn as Blaze, and Zeke is Morferno. As soon as I finished saying the words of the ritual, I felt a sort of shivery surge go through me, like the kind I got when I used to listen to music from Power of One or Avatar, the first movie with those blue guys in it. Whoa, said Squen. You watched some good stuff, Blaze. I went over to the river, looked at the still surface of the water, and almost jumped out of my skin with excitement. I had a hairstyle that looked like I'd been roughing it in the wilderness my whole life. Well, I mean, I always had, but before I formed Team Phoenix, it was always sort of tame. My hair looked all ruffled and somewhat windswept, and like it was cut with improvised tools, so small, spiky clumps stood out all over, and it was an intense, fiery color. I was topless, and I had pants that were a vivid blue and red that formed impressive vertical flame patterns. My skin, or at least what I could see of it, had the same flame-like patterns, but instead of vertical, they seemed to explode in all directions from the center of my torso, and Squen told me later that it was the same on my back. I was wearing a sort of narrow, red, tattered headband, which reminded me of Rambo or Raph, and when I looked at my hands, I noticed I was wearing fingerless biker-type gloves that also had the same flame-like patterns. I also noticed that my face looked strong and rugged, like your typical traveling hero, I guess. Morferno had just come up beside me, and I saw that the ritual had turned him into a small, fiery version of me. There wasn't a single bit of difference, apart from the fact that he was made of flames, the very same color of my every feature. But the biggest shock was yet to come. Literally. I still looked human, but when I stood up and turned to grin at Squen, I realized I'd grown to twice the height and proportionate size of an average adult. All right! I cried. All my dream features in one body! This is awesome! Then, when I punched the air in my excitement, I got another shock. At the height of my punch, a fist-sized, well, relative fist-sized, ball of fire shot from my fist into the air and disappeared into the sky. I stared dumbly at my hand for about a full minute till Squen finally broke the silence. How'd you do that? I don't know, was all I could think of to reply. Can you do it again? I'll try. I balled up my fist and punched the air again, and another ball of fire shot into the air. Wait, said Squen suddenly. Do it again. Why? Just do it. I want to figure something out. I sighed and rolled my eyes, but I shot another fireball to keep him happy. I knew it, he said. It looks just like those fireballs Gon uses. Remember, Blaze? He was your favorite fighter choice. Hey, yeah, you're right. Every time I used that little guy, I always kicked ass in that game. That must be why I can shoot fireballs. Nice tan, by the way. It suits you in that body. Thanks. I always wanted a tan. Now I finally have one. I was blushing a little as I said this. Sure, I've always wanted a tan my whole life. I mean, who hasn't at some point? But whenever I even started to bring this up with anyone back on Earth, they always came out with stuff like, you try that, and all you'll get is sunburn. I hate to spoil this happy moment, said Alomorph, and believe me, I know happy, but we got company. All that fireball shooting was like shooting flares, and I sensed a group coming our way. But how? I started to ask. Later, we gotta go! Even as he spoke, Morferno had morphed to the cargo jet. We all hurried on, and were out of there just in time. So, I said, where are we going? To the mage side in the southern realm, said Squen. We need to get you an Everbag and some other odds and ends. What's an everbag? I asked. An everbag is a bag that never gets full, no matter how much you pack into it. We were all in Morferno, who was still the cargo jet. We were lounging on water couches. I was drinking a coffee. I guess even on Destrana I have a slight coffee addiction. There was a sort of tiny version of a cafe in one part of the ship. The rest of it was scattered with various luxurious furniture items. How come we need to go to the Southern Realm to get an everbag? I asked. 'Cause it's a mage site, and you can only get everbags and some other kinds of things at mage sites. Okay, I said, turning to Elomorph. Now, back to my original question. How'd you sense that group coming our way back at the Destrana marshes? I'm afraid only a Bonder's partner may choose to answer a question like that, he said. See, said Squen, one or both of a Bonder's powers may grant them a side effect power or sub-power. For example, since Elomorph can morph and manipulate any element, he can also sense disturbances in the elements from maybe a radius of 2Ks or more away? We're still not quite sure about the distance thing. Hey, Furno? You think you might have a sub-power? I don't know. And anyway, sub-powers are usually discovered by accident. Most are rarely discovered the first time round, said Squen, since there's not always an obvious connection between the sub-power and a main power. But Furno, I said, you sensed that rogue. All bonded Bonders can sense rogues. Remember that thing they used to find Dragon Balls in the show Dragon Ball? Said Squen. Yeah. In pretty much all the Dragon Ball series, there is a gizmo of some kind that could be used to find Dragon Balls, like a tracker is used to find a tagged animal. Well, it's like bonded Bonders having those programmed into them, except instead of Dragon Balls, it helps them sense rogues. Also, they may get a sort of vision in their minds. That one also happens to their partners, but whereas Bonders only get them sometimes, their partners always get them. So, wait, how come I never got a vision of that rogue Zentu that attacked us? I bet it's because you two didn't go through the renaming ritual at the time. We're here, said Morferno. So what exactly are we buying? I asked Squen as we piled out of Morferno, who morphed to Zack, his chosen disguise form. We need to get your everbag, said Squen. And since going back to your house for your fishing and hunting gear could make things a little dicey, we need to get you some of that, too. Oh, don't worry about buying those, said Morferno. As soon as we get that everbag, I can morph something to some of the gear once we get the chance. Yeah, I thought, remembering what Squen said about one of Elomorph's powers. If I can think it, Furno here can morph it. Elomorph had become part of the wind, so the only way we could know he was still with us was if Squen scratched his head to show he heard our thoughts. Oh, Squen continued, as he scratched a seemingly particularly itchy spot. We also need to get you a pickaxe, a hatchet, all the usual roughneck stuff. He knew I already had those things at home, but we were passing people by now, so I knew he was just keeping up the act, so our convo wouldn't seem unusual. We were way in the outskirts of the Southern Realm, so we could avoid arousing too much suspicion from the locals, so it took us a while to get to the mage site. When we finally got there, Squen got me the gear, and then we were flying in Morferno again. Here, he said, handing me a largish stone bead. I got you a little surprise. The bead had just a little weight in it, kind of like a tiny shot put ball, and it had a picture of a fancy-looking house on it. It must have taken a lot of skill to paint something that small with so much detail. What is it? I asked. It's a portahome bead. That one's the luxury model. It comes with a huge backyard lake that has an infinite supply of seafood, including sorties. Every time you fish something up, it'll be replaced instantly. Whoa, I said. Thanks a mil, Squen. No probs, but from now on, you want it, you buy it, I'm afraid. Fair enough, I said, laughing. The sun was about halfway through its cycle by now, so we landed in Sholia to catch some lunch. We caught enough sorties to last several days once they were smoked and put in our everbags. Then we sat down to enjoy lunch. As I sat, I took off my gloves and put them down beside me. You know, said Squen as we ate, Sholia has a small goldite site just north of here. You might want to take the opportunity to get some currency while we're here, Blaze. No probs, I said. Furno, could you go get us some goldite? Sure. Where's the everbag? Right here, I said, as Morferno morphed a bunch of miners. I gave the everbag to one of the miners he morphed, and he headed off. He'll be a while, I said to Squen, so I'm gonna just catch another sortie or two to eat before we head off again. You're still hungry? What, did the ritual give you a black hole for a stomach or something? Well, you know what they say, I said, laughing. The bigger you are, the more you eat. Besides, I think there's more to it than just size. How do you mean? Well, you remember all that stuff those blue guys from Avatar had to do? I mean, after so many years of that much acrobatics and stuff, trying to get their food and things like that, evolution would have probably given them the need to eat a whole bunch. Yeah, I guess you're right. Minutes later, I was chowing down on some more sortie. After a companionable silence, Squen said, You know, I never seen a morpher go to the lengths Morferno does. You're really lucky to have him. I know, I said, starting on my third and last sortie, not counting the one I already ate when we first got to Sholia. Sometimes his loyalty even surprises me, and I'm the one who thought him up in the first place. Speaking of which, how does that work? How does what work? Well, I always had Furno as like an imaginary friend or something, and now here he is for real. A real, living, fiery version of me. How'd it happen? Well, I gotta be honest, I have no idea. All I know is there's this deity or something called Arsalan, and it kinda creates bonders, and since everyone more or less has different ways of thinking up imaginary friends and pets and so on, there are new ones being made all the time. How they're made based exactly on each person's idea of a friend or whatever, though, I have absolutely no idea. Anyway, we better go to Florai to get some deer or something to dry up, 'cause this new appetite of yours may cause a problem otherwise. I think you may be right, I said, looking at the huge pile of bones, fish bones on the ground near my feet. Then I had a thought. Hey, Squen, can you smell seaweed? Nope. Why? Aw, man, cool! My senses skyrocketed! No way. Yeah, way! Smell. And I think hearing, too. And who knows what else? Then something crazy happened. It was as if I was suddenly somewhere else on Destrana. It looked like some kind of underground place. There were pools of magma scattered everywhere, all in various sizes, and right in the middle of one of the bigger ones, some giant person made of molten rock was standing about waist deep in the magma. Then, when it looked at me with those fiery red eyes, I got scared so bad I almost shit myself. Then it was over, and I was back at Sholia. It was as if the place, wherever it was, didn't even exist. I looked around wildly, then at Squen, who said, You okay, man? I realized I was sweating and breathing fast and shallow. I felt sick with fear. Then I was just plain sick. I threw up a major fountain of spew, which, thankfully, landed in the water. Well, most of it anyway. Whoa, Blaze, you okay? Squen asked a little more urgently when I was done hurling. Did you? I tried to take some deep breaths. Did you get a vision, too? I gasped. No. Is that what just happened? I think so, I said, as I gulped at my water. It tasted like shit after my puke that's been in my mouth, but I gulped it down anyway. Or tried to. Most of it came back up in a coughing fit. When I puked, I took some involuntary breaths. Just then, Morferno appeared out of nowhere. He was in the form of a transbubble. I'd been working on that one while he was flying us around. Come on, everyone in! We gotta get to Namek! Whoa, said Squen. What? No time! Everyone in! Now! We all got in fast, and in a flash of vibrant colors, we were at the place for my vision. I looked around fearfully, but I couldn't see that giant. Where's the giant? I asked nervously. I don't know, Morferno replied. Can someone please tell me what the hell is going on here? Said Squen, a little irritably. Blaze and I had a vision of a rogue Jystone somewhere around here, said Morferno, but this one was made of molten rock. So, said Squen, if you two had a vision, then where... Then I heard it. Quiet, I said, suddenly. You guys hear that? No, said Squen. What? Then he seemed to hear it too. A rumbling, crashing sound in the distance. Then we turned, and I saw the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my life. It was a giant molten boulder rolling straight at us. I was frozen with fear and shock. I think we all were. Then, just when I thought we were about to become molten pancakes, Morferno, who was still a transbubble, teleported us out of the way just in time. Ferno! I cried. Battle fuse! Elemorph! Called Squen, tossing the adapter a large chunk of hardened steel. Element shift! Combat steel! As we fused, Squen called, The only way to take down a Jystone is to get its head off its body. Got it! I called back. By this time, the Jystone was rolling back for another go. We waited till it almost had us, then dodged either side, slashing at it along the way. When we looked back at the Jystone, we were amazed to see not so much as a scratch on it. Again, the Jystone came at us, and again we dodged and slashed, this time only just avoiding being hit. When we looked again, there was still not a single mark on it. It's no good, I said. We can't fight it like this. We have to keep trying, said Squen. It's up to us as a bond team to bring it down. The Jystone was coming back again for another round. This time, as we dodged, 2 slabs of molten rock suddenly sprouted from either side of the rolling Jystone. Because of my size and speed, I was able to dodge it, but Squen was hit. Squen! I cried, rushing over and dropping beside him. He had blood oozing out of his head, and he looked knocked out cold. The area around his injury was burned pretty bad. I thought fast. Ferno, I thought to him, I need you to morph some kind of visor or something I can use to find a weak spot on that Jystone so I can pop that thing out of its shell. Got it, he thought back, bringing down what I now call the weak spotter. We went through another few rounds like this while I searched for a weak spot, only narrowly dodging each blow. Damn it, I thought to Morferno, this chunk of rock don't got a weak spot. Look out, cried Morferno. Too late. As I tried to dodge, the Jystone struck me in the gut with a protruding chunk of molten rock. I flew through the air, hit the ground hard, and tumbled to a stop, narrowly missing a large pool of magma. I tried to get up, but pain flared in my side and gut, and I couldn't even get on my knees, let alone stand up. Blaze! Cried Morferno. Get up! I can't, I thought back, too winded to talk. Yes, you can, said Morferno, sounding even weaker than I felt. You have to. As he trailed off, we defused, and there was Morferno on the ground beside me, a fireball once more, just the merest flicker of a flame. No, I said, disbelievingly. Ferno, no! Then, it was as if a hidden source of energy was building up from deep within me, and a phrase just came into my head from nowhere. I figured, in a position like this, I had nothing to lose, so I stood up, heedless now of the pain that burned so harshly only moments ago, and I cried, Viper Chain! And suddenly, a sort of golden chain bracelet appeared from nowhere and attached itself around my wrist. I noticed a small, separate length of chain attached to it. From there, it was sort of like I was going on instinct. I thought about the little length of chain growing longer and coiling around the Jystone. Suddenly, the length of chain did grow longer, and it did coil around the J-stone. Once the chain was around the J-stone, it stopped dead in its tracks, as if the chain was holding it there. Then I had another crazy thought. I thought about the chain wrapped around the J-stone, grinding and slithering around it at high speed. As if acting on my thoughts, the chain started to grind and slither around the J-stone. Faster and faster it went, and harder and tighter, until bits of the J-stone were coming off it. Amazingly, the heat and friction didn't seem to be giving the chain any wear and tear. On and on the cycle went, and on, until finally the J-stone was just a pile of molten rubble on the ground. As the bits of the molten J-stone started to fade away, I suddenly felt very exhausted, so much so that I couldn't stay standing anymore. My vision blurring, I collapsed onto the ground in a heap. My vision went from blurred to darkness, and I knew no more. Well, that is the end of Part 2 of Bond Teams of Destrana, Book 1, The Pharaoh Within. I just want to apologize for not posting for so long a time after that last one, but honestly, I'm having trouble keeping up a schedule for all of this. You know, a schedule. And also, sorry for that, because I'm still kind of a little bit sick. I got the remnants of a head cold, which is just refusing to go away. I'm still recovering from that. Anyway, I also want to mention, just a reminder, that if there's questions about the book, or questions you want to know the answers to about TV shows, movies, or games, or music from those instances, I'll be only too happy to answer them. Just ask them in the comments, and if you like, I'll even post a video answering the questions. So, also, I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm also going to be posting videos of topics that I feel are important concerning Dunedin here in New Zealand. Because there was that seal thing I mentioned and all that sort of stuff. That's not going to be a one-off. Also, as soon as I find out what the copyright extensions are, I might or might not be able to post some songs as well. But I'll see what sort of research I need to do on that first. In the meantime, it's just topics of importance around Dunedin and parts of my book. That's about all the work I've done on my book on a copy that I'm redoing. It's a previous copy of the same deal, but I need to copy from memory. I need to re-edit it from memory of what I've done at the radio show. So anyway, before I start blabbering on about nothing in particular, this is Rio Stonewell saying up, over, and gone. Keep it real, guys.